Hi, I'm Kathy Champion and you're here at Random Acts of Stamping. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today we're going to just kind of work our way through what I have in my mind to make. And when I say that, it's because I'm really not sure where I'm going with this. But I saw a picture, actually it was on my phone, and it was one of those happy color pictures where you color by number, and it was the prettiest butterfly scene with a dry brush behind it, dry brush wood. So I recently got this cling stamp from Stampin' Up! Called Drybrush, and this is a large stamp. It is, as you can see, I believe this is going to measure about 4 3/4 by, say 4 3/4 by 6. So this is a really super good size stamp, and it's I think it's going to be beautiful. I have not used this stamp yet, so I'm real anxious, and I thought since it is one of the larger stamps, it might be a good idea because we'll probably have to stamp it more than once to use the Stamparatus. And my last video I kind of introduce this to you. Before we get started, I want to do a couple of things, and that is I want to remind you that the host code for September is right here. I will also have it in the description under the video as well, if I don't forget. I try not to forget, but if I do, you can always come back to the video and pause it like right here and copy this down. And all you're going to need to do is plug this in when you place your order, and what will happen, it will notify me that you use the host code, and then I will be able to send you a little something, a little free gift at the end of the month. Once I compile all of my orders, then I will make a mailing list and I will send out some little something. It may be some embellishments or ribbon or maybe a little ink spot. It'll be something that you will find very useful in your craft room. So remember to do that. If it has to be an order of $50 or more before tax and shipping. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on and see what we can get done here with this little dry brush stamp. And I think what I want to do is I'm just going to grab a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And I think I'm going to cut that down because I want to cut it to about the size of this this piece. So we know that it needs to be about a 4.5 by 6. Or I'll tell you what we could do. We could just cut it. Let's cut it in half, which we know half would be 5.5. So I am going to, and I'm using this super great trimmer. Y'all know how much I love the Stampin' Up! Trimmer. So if you are in the market for a really good trimmer, this trimmer is very well priced, I think, for what you get. And I'm going to cut this at 5.5 by 6. And I love the 6. If you close this up, this lip right here gives you exactly 6 inches, which I think is fantastic. Do I need it a little bit bigger? Let's gauge this and see. I think 6 is going to be good. I think that's going to cover it. So I am going to slice that. And now this should fit into our Stamparatus rather well. And we can work with this. I'm going to move my host code up here. I will bring this back down at the end of the video so that you can see it again. But we're only going to need to use one of the plates. So I'm going to leave the one that's on, and I'm going to move this one over to the side. We are working with a cling stamp, so we do not need to use our little mat that comes inside. So we're just going to use this. You can buy grid paper to put inside of this, or if you wanted to, so you don't get ink on this part of your, I mean, it will wipe off, but if you do not want to take the chance of getting ink on this, you can very easily cut you a piece of like an 8 by or 7 by 8 I think it would be 8 by 8 that will take it from here all the way over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, it's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it is a 7 by 7. I was thinking 8 by 8, but I think I was measuring the frame as well. So your actual stamp space is 7 by 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line that up right about there. I am going to grab a magnet, and I'll tell you why, because well, you know what? I don't think I'm going to need to grab a magnet. Yeah, I want to grab a magnet because I know what's going to happen. I am going to want to stamp, oops. I am going to want to stamp. I really need to tape this paper down so it doesn't wiggle around on me. I'm going to get this lined up perfectly with that edge, and then I'm going to put my magnet down right there. And that will definitely hold it because, like I told you in the demo, these magnets are super, super strong. So I'm going to put that right there. And the great thing about the Stamparatus is you can put your stamp where you want it, and you're going to be able to pick it up from whatever point, and it will always come back down on that point. And I love the fact that this has a beautiful grid line on it. I don't know if you can see the grid, but it is great for lining up your sentiment stamps. So see how easy that was to pick up? So now I'm going to move this over a little bit because I want to grab a brown, something a little bit darker, maybe an early espresso. Let's try the early espresso. If it doesn't, you know, like I said, I brought y'all along for just to play with me in my craft room because I'm not sure how this is going to pan out. I'm really not sure. It looks like I've got some little specks of something. Let me get a brush. I'm just going to use a paintbrush, and it looks like it was little flecks of rubber or paper or something on my stamp. The one thing you don't want on your stamp is anything that's going to pick up in the ink. So that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this off. This is another advantage that you have. I'm going to take that off and lay it flat so I have a flat area to ink. Oh, this is the early espresso. I think it's going to be pretty on here. And you know, if we want to go lighter, we can. But I'm going to try that and see how it looks. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to place it back into my Stamparatus. And let me bring this over, making sure that I'm in camera focus because I want y'all to see this. Now I'm just going to push this down, and I'm going to put nice even pressure all over top of this. And I'll tell you something that works for me. If you've got one of the microfiber cloths or just something, and just use it to rub the top, it just makes it easier, and it doesn't make a squeaky sound from where your fingers are rubbing across the stamp. And let's see what we, look at that. Is that not gorgeous? And with the with this being a dry brush, it really doesn't have to be perfect. So if this is not perfect, who's going to know? It's supposed to have that weathered look. So I don't think I'm gonna do anything else with it. I really like the way this looks. Look how pretty. I am very impressed. One stamp. And yes, we could go back and get some of this a little darker, but you know what? I think the look of that really plays into what I wanted, because what I had in mind, the picture that I saw was a dry brush piece of wood, and it had beautiful butterflies and flowers on the wood brush. Very colorful, and I thought it was stunning. So I thought, let me try that. Now I'm going to use some of the Stampin' Mist, and this is Stampin' Up! Stamp Cleaner, and I'm just going to spray it directly onto my stamp. This is safe for all of your stamps that you get from Stampin' Up! And then I am going to just wipe that ink off, and as you can see, it works beautifully. Look how pretty it took that ink off of that stamp. And I didn't even rub very hard. Very, very good. I'm impressed. This is, it's a really big bottle for what it costs, and I can't remember exactly the price point on this, but I know it is a huge bottle for what you get, and I love it. It cleans your stamps beautifully. It's great for the rubber cling stamps, and it's also good for the photopolymer. It cleans them both. Just absolutely wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and put this back in, and I wanted to tell all of you something. A friend of mine, Christa Cobb, has a YouTube channel, and she has a video up where she does a technique on how to put your stickers on your cling stamps, and it's a different technique than what we were taught with Stampin' Up. But when you get these, you peel the sticker completely off. I'm going to put a link to her video down in the bottom of mine, so go over and take a look at her channel. She just got started. I think this is her first video, and I've been working with her a little bit and giving her some advice on editing programs, and she sent me her first edited video this morning, and I was blown away. I told her she is editing like a pro. So it makes you really feel good when you give someone some advice and they carry through with it and do such a fantastic job. So if you would do me a big favor, go over and support Christa. She's a beautiful person. She loves the Lord with all of her heart, which makes her extremely special to me. Anybody that loves God, I like to support as much as I can. Not to mention she's just a really super dear friend of mine. So go over and take a look at what she's got. And again, her channel is Rectangles, and it's spelled a little bit different, so I will put a link to her video in the description below. Alright, so before I trim this down, I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to decide, I'm thinking I want it to go this way, but to have this piece go this way, I would need to have a 6x6 card. So I'm thinking I'm going to cut this down and put this on an A2 size card. I like the A2 size cards. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a 5x7 and I love a 6x6, but for most of us card makers, we like the A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I think I might cut this in two, or I might even cut it where I can cut out of the middle, because I love this look right here in the middle. Although when we put our flowers and butterflies on it, some of this is going to get kind of covered up, but that's okay. Let's decide what we're going to do with our butterflies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my little Stamparatus back together, and I think we may be done with that. I'm not sure. If we need to pull it back out, we most certainly can do that. So I brought out Butterfly Wishes, and I also brought out this die cut called Butterfly Beauty. And this particular die set is gorgeous. I have not used it like I should because it is gorgeous. Look, you get two sets of dies with this. You get the outline or the overlay as well as the detailed. Nothing is any prettier than an overlay. I love overlays. I think you remember the card that I made where I did the white overlay. I thought it was gorgeous. So I am thinking that I may only want to use this, and see, it's all one piece. So you can see how pretty that would look, and we might not even use all of it because we can cut some of this off if we don't need to use it all. But and this one is the same way. It is a huge, this would actually, you would cut one and overlay it over the other one. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and cut one. And I'm thinking, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to use some white paper, and I am going to die cut both of these just to get a feel. And a lot of times this is what I say do. If you're not sure how it's going to cut or what it's going to look like, cut it in white paper and then put that in with your die set. That way next time when you get ready to use this, you won't have to question, well, I'm not sure what this is going to cut and what that's going to cut, so I'm just not sure what to do. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to pull over our trusty little Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And y'all know I love this machine. It is, and I want to move this because I don't want it to get messed up. So I'm going to lay that over there. And I am going to grab my 1 plate and my 2 plate. And I'm going to grab this piece of white cardstock that I cut in 2. I am going to get a cut plate, which is a number 3. Just like that. And then I have another number 3, and I have my paper. So on top of the first number 3, I will lay my paper, and then my die. Let's see if we can do it this way. You know what? I can get them both on this one piece. That'll be a great thing. So let's turn this one this way, and we can move that one down just a hair. And look at that. We can cut both of these out at one time and all on one piece of paper, or half a sheet of cardstock. I love it. Alright, so I'm going to bring that out and even that up onto my platform. And then look at that. You don't have to push. You just start it in and it just flows. Now I get much better leverage if this is facing in front of me. But for the sake of the video, it's going to pop. A little pop, that's normal. So let's pull this back over here. I am going to fold up my machine and sit it back over where it belongs. And let's look at this and see what we got. Okay, here's our... This is the one that does the full detail. Oh, is that not beautiful? This looks like an overlay. Yeah, this looks like a beautiful, beautiful overlay. Now, I do need to punch out a little bit more of these little detail pieces here, but they will come out. We'll use our little take your pick with the roller brush on it and get those out. Let's look at this one and see what it did. I love die cuts. They are my jam. Oh, this is pretty. This is going to be so gorgeous. What I'm going to do is come over here, and I am going to grab my take your pick tool, and I am going to go ahead and lay this down right here and just roll this across it a little bit, just so it will release some of it. Just like that. Like I said, I wanted to, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with this card. I do know, now all of this didn't cut. We might need to run this back through. Maybe I got a little too overzealous with trying to do both of them together. It just didn't give me quite the pressure that I needed. Alright, I'm going to clean off that plate. And you will get little pieces of paper like that that will stick into your plate, but you can flip those off, and it does help if you rotate your plate. Don't always cut with it on the same side, because this is what helps keep it from warping if you will flip it back and forth. So I'm just going to lay this piece right back down on there. I may even use a shim, and if you ask what a shim is, a shim can be nothing more than a piece of cardstock, and this piece I have folded in half. It's just a regular piece of cardstock, and I'm going to lay that over top, and then lay this over top of that, and I'm going to run that back through. So this time I'm going to set the machine in front of me so I can get a little better leverage on it. that always helps me when I'm die cutting. If I'm feeding it in directly in front of me, for me it just makes it so much easier. Yeah, I can feel that shim because it's a lot tighter. But sometimes that's all it needs, is just a little something to give you that little added dimension to help. And yeah, see, the pieces are coming out beautifully now. All those pieces that didn't seem to want to pop out are now coming out gorgeous. Look at this. This is going to help us know what color we want to cut what piece out of, and I'll show you what I mean as soon as I get this out of my. And you got these little teeny holes that you put your little pick tool in. See the little tiny holes like that? And that's what helps release it from the, and you'll see them strategically located here and there on your die, like right there. They don't cut, they're just basically there to help release your piece. So let's lift this out, and you want to be very careful, especially when you're dealing with an intricate die like this. You really want to make sure that you take your time, especially if you're working, you know, I'm working with just a plain piece of white cardstock, so that's not so bad. But if you're working with designer series paper, you really want to be careful because you do not want to tear these. That is the last thing you want to do, because that would kind of ruin your entire piece, and you don't want to waste your good paper. I know I'm like that when it comes to my good paper. I really am a hoarder. I love it, and I don't want to waste it. I want to keep it to make that special project for someone special. Okay, so we got that one done. I'm not going to worry about cleaning these for the sake of the video. We will do all of that a little bit later, but I am going to run over top of this real quick and just get these pieces out. This piece looked like it cut pretty well, and I'm going to save these. I am going to put them in I'm going to put them in with these dies. So now I will remember which die cuts which piece. And that will be so helpful. And you know, when you get a new die set, that's a good rule of thumb. Cut it and put it in with your dies. And that way you get to play with it and see exactly how it cuts and how pretty it is. And then you also have a reference for when you get ready to use it. So I think that's what I'm going to start doing with all of mine. And I had done that with this before, but evidently I did not keep it. I didn't put it in with the die itself, and I kind of wish I had it, because it would have saved me a little extra time right here. But the good thing is I get to share all of this information with all of you, and hopefully it will help you. Because that's the most fun part of having a YouTube channel and doing videos like this. I so enjoy bringing knowledge to y'all, things that I've learned along my way that I can share with you and hopefully make your crafting a little easier. And there we go. We just about got all the pieces poked out of it. You might have heard some people call a tool like this a pokey tool. This is why it got the name of a pokey tool, because you use it to poke out these little pieces. That is gorgeous. Okay, so now I know which piece is my overlay and I know which piece is my solid. And I will tell you what will be gorgeous with this. If you cut your, if you cut this piece out of some pattern paper, and then do a solid over top of it, how gorgeous would that be? But I think for this one, I don't know, I may do that. I'm so indecisive, but y'all know that about me. I think I say that about every time I do a video, because I always think I'm going to go in one direction, and then I turn around and go in a total different direction. And I apologize, but hey, that's who I am. That's the way I roll. Alright, I'm going to lay that die over here, get those out of my way, and let's clean up our space just a little bit. I'm just going to move some of this little clippings and little pieces out of our way so we can look and see what we got. All right, this piece right here, we know that we want to do this out of a solid, or out of a, I still want to say pattern, a pattern paper. And then this piece would be beautiful overlaid. I'll tell you what, let's grab a piece of, let me grab a piece of Designer Series paper. And this is some Designer Series paper that I have been using. Oh goodness, look at this piece right here. What if we cut this out of this and did an overlay of white? Let's try it. You know, you never know how beautiful something's going to be unless you give it a show, give it a go. So I am going to go ahead and cut this piece of paper. Let me look at some of these other ones and make sure that that's the one I want to do. Oh, this is pretty too. Oh, this would be gorgeous with the white. We're going to do this one. Okay, there I go with my indecisiveness again. Okay, I am going to cut this off at, let's see, this piece measures, note this piece measures, we're going to do 4 and, let's do 4.5. I want to make sure I got enough to get that piece off of there. So let's cut 4.5. Right like that. And let's cut it, let's decide this way how much we need. And we're going to need about 5 1/4. Let's do 5 1/2. 5 1/2, and cut the side of the paper. If you're using a pattern paper, cut the side that you know that you want to cut your piece from. So this is going to be my piece right here. So now I am going to bring back, let me stick my paper back over here just for a minute, kind of get that out of my way. And this is the piece that was the solid. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to make another mess because I'm going to get these white pieces out of this one so that I get a good cut. There we go. And one more right there. And a couple of right here. And now I am going to lay this down like so. I want to make sure that I'm getting all of it on my piece of paper. And y'all just look at the mess I've made. But you know what? It's like a kid enjoying a piece of cake. They're not really having fun and enjoying that piece of cake if they don't make a mess with it. So I'm not having fun if I'm not making a mess. So there you go. Alright, I am going to take my 3 plates, 1, 2, and 3, and load it into my machine. And then I'm going to load up my piece of paper and my die, making sure that everything is right where I want it. I am going to use some of these little post-it tags just to kind of hold it in place so that I don't lose it off from where I want it to cut. And then I'll take another number 3 plate and put over top. So there we go. And that's our sandwich, and then we are just going to crank it through. This time I'm going to bring it back. I may not need a shim by bringing it back, because that gives it a double cut. And let's see what we got. Look, all the pieces that came out. That's always a good sign. So I'm going to move the die cut machine so that we can all see how pretty this turned out. Let's get our pieces off of here. I'll tell you what, if y'all don't have a little hand vac in your craft room, if you're die cutting, you're almost going to always need some type of a little handheld vac, because you will make a mess. It is just the nature of the beast. So let's lay these plates over here, get our trusty little machine out of our way, and then let's take this off. And I'm just going to tap it like that just to knock out what will come out. That's always a good thing to do. And then I'm going to use my little pokey tool and just release as much of this as I can. And then just start peeling it back. Once you get it about halfway, you pretty much got it licked, and then you can just start lifting it. And again, just be really careful, because any of the intricate parts, like right here, they will have a tendency to want to tear on you. So there we go. Oh, look how beautiful that is. And you just want to go through and make sure you've gotten all your pieces out, so you are exposing as much. And it's a little harder to see when you're dealing with a printed image like this, or pattern paper, but it's okay. Now we're going to lay this overlay over it, and that's covering up quite a bit of what I wanted. So let's try it this way. Let's see what happens if we lay this over top of the white. Now that's pretty too, but you're missing out on the fact, and you know, you could use these separate. So let's bring our piece of Drybrush back over, and let's see what it looks like that. How about like this? What about like that? Well, that's pretty too. Look how pretty that is. That's using the same one over the same one, but you are picking up a little of the white in the background. So that's too much over it. And this one, I really like this over it. I really do. Well, my plates are sliding, y'all, so let me move these off. They were laying on at an angle, and they were starting to slide on me, so I better move those out of my way. So I'm not sure if I'll like this or not. So what I might do is hang on to these. I'm definitely going to hang on to these two and put them with these dies, so that I know which die goes with which. And I'm going to go ahead and use my and I've got that little the little mat that goes with this brush that would definitely make this a lot easier to clean out, but it's okay. You can do it with it or without it, and I just didn't bring it over, so I'm going to lay these over to the side right now, because I'm really not sure if I'm wanting to use those or not. But that was a really good. This would be so pretty on a dark, like the raspberry, the lavender, the Highland Heather. This would be so pretty on it. And I'm still thinking I like this on top of that. It's just a beautiful die. And I am crazy about butterflies, as y'all well know. Anybody that knows me knows I am a butterfly lover. I think they're gorgeous little creatures. Yeah, see, if you put this over top of this one, you're pretty much covering it up. This way, you're not covering it up. You are getting a little bit more of that underside to show, but I don't really like the body here. So I would need to, let's see if the die set has another body that we could use. And it doesn't. It has a lot of little butterflies and little sprigs and things that you could cut out, but not what I had in mind for this. Okay, so like I said, we're going to regroup. I still want the butterflies on this piece of dry brush wood. So I'm going to lay that there, lay this over here, and we are just going to totally regroup and let me grab some other stamps and dies and what have you, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and I decided to try this stamp called Forever Bloom. I think this is going to be very pretty. It does come with dies. The dies that came with it are called Cherry Blossom, and they will actually cut out this entire floral piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp some of these images on here, and I'm going to just use stamp blocks with this one rather than using a positioning tool, and I think that will work. Let's take it a little bit at an angle and see if that will work a little better. Just like that. And I'm going to use the, let's see if we can position it a little bit better. Yeah. You want to make sure when you put your stamps on a block that you don't have anything hanging off, because if it's hanging off, you're not going to get a good impression. So I'm going to just go ahead and ink this up. And I'm using the Momento because I'm going to color this with alcohol markers. And I'm going to bring this over. I'm not going to use anything under this because it is one of the cling stamps. So I'm just going to stamp it down right about here. I'm going to give it a good press. And that stamped gorgeous. I love that. I think that's really, really nice. I'm going to do one more on the other side and see if I get a little darker image, and I probably will because I don't think the stamp has been inked before. So anytime you're dealing with a stamp that has not had ink on it before, it might be a little stubborn the first time, and it's okay. We'll stamp it, and if this one turns out better, we'll use it. So again, I'm just going to press it. You want to give it time enough on the paper for that ink to transfer. And I got a feeling this one will give us a much better impression. Almost a little too dark. But I do like it. So I think we'll color both of these and see which one we like the best. How about that? I do find this this particular stamp set to have some beautiful pieces in it. We've got some little flowers, and we've got little little teeny blossoms. And I think I'm going to stamp a little bit more of this, some of these little pieces, and we'll cut those and see how they look and if we can put them together. Because I really want this to look like we've got these flowers running up this wood fence. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to, actually I think I'm going to use my Stampin' Scrub to clean this one off. I'm just refreshing this with some water. And we'll dry it over here. And there's a nice clean stamp ready for our next stamp. So I'm going to grab a couple more stamp blocks, and I am going to continue to use the Momento ink. And I think what I'll do is I'll do a couple of pieces on each one of these blocks, like that. And maybe like this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and ink these up. And again, we're talking the same thing here. They have not been inked before. So you either want to do one of two things. You want to ink them really good, and you don't want to do what I did and get ink all over everything. I'm constantly putting my fingers in my ink pad. And stamp. Yep, and see again, that came out a little pale. I think I might need to re-ink that ink pad. I've been using it like crazy lately, and I haven't re-inked it in quite a while, so maybe I need to pull out my re-inker and ink it up. But in the meantime, I'm going to condition that stamp a little bit with some stamp cleaner. Let's see if that worked better. Yep, that's a little better. Okay, now let's do these pieces. Not bad. Okay. Alright, hang tight and I'll be right back. Okay everybody, I'm back. I had to re-stamp these. I was not happy with the image of the other ones because I felt like my ink just wasn't doing the proper job. Plus I had some residue on here that I just didn't care for. So I re-stamped, and these stamps I believe are the distinctive, which gives you this kind of very mellow look. So we're going to go with that, and I am going to grab out a couple of my pinks. This is the light Flirty Flamingo and the dark Flirty Flamingo, and I think what I want to do is I'm going to also go paler with the Petal Pink. Let's see, do I have the blushing? I don't think I have Blushing Bride. I think they discontinued that color in the markers. But anyway, the Petal Pink is a very light pink, and I will show you. See, it's almost like an apricot. That's the dark one, and the lighter one, it is a very soft pink. But I was thinking that I wanted something a little bit more vibrant. And see, that's definitely a pretty pink. So this is the light flamingo, flirty flamingo. I'll get that out in a minute. So I am going to come in and I'm going to do some of my petals. And we may alternate. This is the light. So I'm just going to fill in these petals. And this has been dried long enough that I can go ahead and start my coloring as far as my Momento ink goes. The Momento ink does dry fairly quickly. So I'm just going to go in here and just lay down some of this pink. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm going to work on one flower and one leaf and show you how I would do this. And then I will go off camera and color the rest of this. And I am going to bring out the Granny Apple Green because I think this green is a very pretty green. And if you notice these markers, the color on this one is so similar that you can't tell which is dark and which is light. I would say by looking at them that this is the light and this is the dark, and I was right. But by just looking at the tops of the things, I think it would be very hard to be able to really see that. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a leaf, and this is the lighter. I'm also going to do the stem. I'm going to go ahead and do this leaf. Just like that. And maybe these little pieces underneath that little bud. Now that bud, I'm going to try it in the dark Petal Pink because I think these colors will probably go good together. That's the dark. And I am going to come back in with that light. Just like that. Now I'm going to come back with the dark Flirty Flamingo, and I am going to go right here in the middle and just kind of put in a little color like that. Maybe a little tip here. Where these lines are at, it's sort of giving you a little bit of direction as to where you need to do your colors. Now we're going to let that dry just for a minute. And a lot of times, because these are alcohol markers, I'll just take my piece up and fan it, because you want that ink to dry before you put down, try to blend out with the lighter color. So now I'm going to come in and I'm just going to move that color out like that. And see how pretty that makes it? This is the great thing about the alcohol ink. It blends beautifully. And now that flower is done, and look how gorgeous it looks. Now if you wanted to, you could come back in with this one and do a little shading right in here. And I am using the little bullet tip this time instead of the brush end. And then I'm going to come back with this one, and I'm just going to blend that up. Sometimes it doesn't look like you're doing anything, and then after it dries you will see the total effect, and it can be gorgeous. Now I will probably grab some different shades of green for the leaves and make it look a little bit different, but I think that this is a beautiful color to use on these. Now you could come in and use one of the purples like the Highland Heather if you wanted to do some of the buds up here at the top. And this is the light. And look how pretty that is. And I wouldn't do anything else to these. I would just leave those as is. you could blend some of your purples and your pinks together. Don't be afraid to try something different. Like these leaves up here, I'm going to go in and put down a little bit of pink. And this is the flower underneath this one. I'm going to let that dry just for a moment. While it's drying, let's go ahead and grab a different shade of green. I'm going to grab the light shaded spruce. And even though this says light, the shaded spruce is a dark green. And I am just going to go like that. And I'm going to put this one back over. And then I'm going to take that lighter Granny Apple Green. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to blend those two. Like I said, don't be afraid to blend colors in the same family, but even though they're different colors, because the Granny Apple Green, the shaded spruce, I think they look beautiful together. Alright, we got that flower right there done. Let's go in with this Highland Heather, and this is the light. And I am just going to use a little bit in that middle. A little bit here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to fan that. And then I'm going to take this Petal Pink light and I'm going to blend that out. And you see how pretty that is? So don't be afraid to blend different colors because it does work. It works gorgeous. So I'm going to come back in now with the dark Granny Apple. And I am going to do this flower. This one I think I'm just going to leave it all one color, but I'm going to shade it using itself. When I say using itself, I'm just going to go back and darken up my lines. Just like that. And if you notice, I went down to make it look like it's connected down into that other leaf. And that actually, if you look at that closer, you will see how it looks like this leaf is actually darker than that one. But we use shaded spruce on that one. So let's go in, and I think I'm going to do another of the Petal Pink, and this is the dark. I'll tell you what, let's go in with white this time. Let's do a light Petal Pink right here. I said I wasn't going to stay on here and let y'all watch me color, but I really wanted you to see how versatile these Stampin' Blend markers are. They color, if you love to color, oh my goodness, you're going to love these markers because they are such a joy to color with. Okay, again, I'm going to fan that and get that dry as I can. And then I'm going to go back in with the dark. Just like that, a little bit right there on that edge. And then we're going to go back with the light. Going to fan it, fan it, fan it. And always use something protective underneath when you're doing this. Alcohol markers bleed. They bleed through your paper, and you want something to protect your work surface. So I'm using a piece of the grid paper from Stampin' Up. This is wonderful stuff to use. Now I'm going to come back in with that light, and I'm going to blend that out. Just like that. Isn't that pretty? I just absolutely love what these colors do. Now this time I think I'm going to go in with the dark Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to make this one just a tad bit darker. It looks like it's the biggest flower, so it's more mature. And then I'm going to, let's fan it. Almost forgot. You want to do that because if you don't dry it in between your colors, it will get very muddy looking. But look at those. Aren't they gorgeous? So now this is the lighter, and I am going to try shading a little bit of lighter on the outside of these petals. And you'll notice how putting the light color on top of the dark just really lightens up your petals. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? Look how realistic that looks. Gorgeous. Okay, we have one more leaf to do, and this time I think I'm going to go in with the light Just Jade. This will give us a little bit different color on our leaf. And I love, this is one of the new in colors for 2020 through 2022. And I love the Just Jade. I think it's gorgeous. And I'm going to carry that through the stem. And even up here. And here. I might even come back over top of this a little bit. Just like that. Now that piece is ready to cut out, so we are going to, maybe I want to go back over that leaf a little bit. I'm going to use the bullet tip, and I am just going to pull on these little veins on that leaf. Just like that. And let's see, these are light and dark, goes right here. I like to be able to keep my markers in their proper places, or their placement. So this one is the dark, and that's the light. And they go right there. It just helps me and keeps me organized if I keep everything in its proper place, and then I know where my colors are at. I don't know if y'all are like that, but for me, I have to work with some semblance of order, even though I was talking to a friend of mine and I told her that I never feel like I have got things together. And it's funny how we, you know, other people can see us as being so well organized and together, and I am a far cry from that, y'all. I feel like I'm always chasing the moon. Okay, I think we're ready now to cut this out, and let's see. I am going to go ahead and run this through with this die. I haven't put these on magnetic sheets yet because I just got them. And I do like them on the magnetic sheets much better than what they come on. So let's see if we can place this down. And the rule of thumb, what I've been told, is when you get the perfect placement, you don't see any white around your image. So that must be perfect placement. That's about as good as I can get it. So I am going to go ahead and put that on there. And I'm going to grab my plates. And I'm not going to bring the die cut machine over again. I have it set up right here beside me, which is very convenient for me when I'm doing something like this, where I can just bring it over and cut it and bring it right back over to show you what I did. So, if anyone purchases this machine from me and you need help with it, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me via email, phone call, text message, however you need to reach out to me, because I am here for you. We'll call and we'll talk our way through it. I'll help you in any way that you need, because that's my job. I'm here for you. Now look at that. Is that not gorgeous? And I think when we cut this in two and have this running up this fence, I think it's going to be beautiful. And I think we're going to do some little butterflies around. So let's see if we can do some stamping. We'll stamp some butterflies and then see if we can put this card together. And I think what I want to do is I want to put this, I'm going to cut this fence, I think, right in half. So let's take our paper trimmer out. And I think what I want to do is cut it. I'll tell you what, let's trim the fence out first. I'm going to trim the fence so that it is like that. That was pretty good. And then I'm going to trim about, let's see, 3.5. Let's do 3.5. I think that will look good on a card. And save this piece, because we could use that piece on another card. Anytime I stamp pieces like that, I can always find a place for them. And as you can see, I'm just trimming just the tiniest bit off of that stamp that I can. Just enough to get it where it looks clean. I love that. I think it's so pretty. Now, another thing that you could do, if you were so inclined, and if you wanted to stay in the same color family, you could also color this all in one color. Like, let's grab the blue, and this is light Seaside Spray and dark Seaside Spray, and I'm going to do everything in this color. Okay, and then we're just going to come down here, and I am going to, I plan on using the two colors, and I'm going to use 2 colors of green. And I think for this one, because it's going to be light, I think I may go and just use the mint macaron for the leaves, and I'll just use the light and the dark. I think that, oops, I didn't mean to color that leaf, but I did. That's okay. We'll go back over it with the green, and I think it'll blend. And we will be blending these back out after we put in some dark. We'll come back with our light and blend those out. I love this color. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful light, very delicate blue, and I love blue. Alright, I'm going to come in now with the dark, and all I'm going to do is go in to the middle of the flower, maybe a little bit across those little tops like that, and right there, a little bit right here, and again right here in the middle, And now I'm going to fan this just like I told you I would do. Fan it just a teeny bit. Let that ink get dry. And now we're going to come back in with this. And I'm going to start right here. And all I'm going to do is just drag that color up into the petal. And look how gorgeous that is. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Let's drag that ink because it just blends so pretty. I am going to go back with the darker, and I'm going to accentuate this flower right here from the leaf. Just like that. And then back with the light. I'm not going to mess with that down there because I want it to dry. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just pull that ink. And then we're going to do the same thing down here. And here. And see how soft these look by doing it this way? And all in one color. And you could do this using the pinks. You could use using yellows or gold or orange. Orange for fall flowers like this would be gorgeous. Alright, I'm going to grab my mint macaron, and I think this is the mint macaron. I'm going to start out with my light. And I'm just going to put some color down on these leaves. I'm going to keep it very pale. I'm going to go ahead and do my stems. And I'm just going to continue to color my leaves. This video definitely took a turn because I was really thinking that that die cut was going to be what I wanted. And you know, it's like that when you go in your craft room to sit down to make a card, you may have one thing in your mind of what you want it to be, and you may take a totally different direction. And I want y'all to know that's okay. That's called creativity. And sometimes what we have in our head and what we put on paper doesn't always pan out to what we want. And it's okay if it doesn't. Now I'm using that bullet tip because that really helps you drag that ink on the stems especially. These look gorgeous. I love the way this looks. Now I'm going to go back in with the lighter, and I'm just going to drag that ink. It's not going to take much because this is blending really well when you use the tone on tone. Blend it out. Just like that. And now we can cut this one out as well. So I'm going to put my plates back down. And grab the same die. I'm going to position it. Just like that. Use my little pieces to glue that down or tape it down. then we're just going to run it through. And we'll lift that up. And I may like this one better than the other one. Who knows? We'll see. Now we have our piece. I think I'm liking that one. Let's see. Which one pops? Oh, that one's pretty too. You know, there's nothing to say that we could not use them both. Maybe what we'll do, and don't be afraid to cut your images. You can always cut them. You can cut out, if you only want a part of this, you could cut this off and use that. You know, or you could cut part of this off. So let's say we like this one, but we wanted this part underneath. But we don't want this. I'm still leaning toward the blue. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to cut some butterflies, and I want some beautiful yellow. You know what? We could do some of these butterflies. Let me show you. Just take your paper snips and very gently come in and snip off a butterfly. And if you wanted to have a white one, you could very easily come in and snip that one off. Well, that one's not quite going to work for us because it's not solid enough, but these two right here will be gorgeous on here. And I think we're going to have them in flight like that. This is also a pretty one. And so this particular die, you could very easily cut your butterflies out and use them individually. Look at that. That's gorgeous. This would make a beautiful butterfly on any card. And you know, you could always come back and use these inside your card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim that out so that it takes the contour of a butterfly, just like that. And this one here, this wing needs to be rounded. Just like that. And let's get a card base. And I've got some card bases already in my drawer. And I'm trying to think, I think I want to use a piece of the blue back behind that. And let's see if we have any of that Seaside Spray. I think this is the color right here. The Seaside Spray. I only have this in the 12 by 12s because I haven't purchased any of the 8. Oh, let's see, there's a piece. Oh, it's a small one. Okay, that won't work. This will though. Okay, I do have a small piece. I always look to make sure I can use my smaller pieces without cutting down another sheet. That's always a good rule of thumb. saves you on your paper, and it saves you the aggravation of burning a piece of paper just to get a small piece, you know, a full-size sheet. All right, we're going to cut this to an A2 size mat, which is 4 by 5 1/4. So let's take it off at 4. And 5 1/4. I'm going to move everything off of there just for a moment because I want to adhere this on here like so. I want to get it as even as I possibly can. Okay, I think what I'm going to use, I'm going to use some of the Stampin Seal. You know what, I still have some of the old snails, so bear with me. I'm going to use this. I still love this stuff. I became addicted to it because it was so easy to use. No learning curve. You just put it down and run it, and it worked beautifully. Okay, so now we want to stick this on here, but I am going to do my same technique. I'm going to eyeball on this side and that side, and I think that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to take my card base and I want to mat it right here just like that, and I think by doing that this is going to look really pretty because the flowers are going to pop now by having that outline back there of the Seaside Spray. So for these, I want to pop these up. I think the flowers will be beautiful with dimensions. So I'm going to grab out my dimensionals, and I am just going to grab about 3, 4, 5, whatever my fingers can carry. And I am just going to strategically put some here and there. And I might even grab a couple of these minis for my leaves right here and right there. And maybe one right there. I think we're good. Maybe one right there. And I'm going to grab that Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to wrangle these off. Well, I thought I was, and then I made a mess. That's okay. The big ones usually wrangle really good. And there we go. And I set it down on the table, and I probably shouldn't have done that. Come back up, come back up. So I got a little bit of forgiveness there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down like it's growing from the edge of that fence over. Just like that. Isn't that pretty? Now this is coming together like I wanted it to. So I am going to use some liquid glue on the back of that. So I'm going to grab my Tombow, and I'm just going to shake it down and swirl it onto the back of this card or this mat. And then I am going to do the same thing I normally do. I'm going to bring it to the edge, get my top and my bottom where I think it needs to go, and then just set my card down. Sorry about that. Toby heard my husband in the garage and he just went crazy. Toby! He'd been really good today. He had not barked very much, so I was very pleased that he hadn't been showing his butt too much. Toby! Oh, we get so tickled at his little roof roof roof. He has such a funny little bark. So endearing, because he is definitely our little stud muffin, we like to call him. Okay, I'm using some of the smaller dimensions on the back of this, and the reason for that, I want it to look like my butterflies are in flight without causing too much distress onto the butterfly itself. So I'm going to bend his wing just a little bit, and I'm going to set him down like he was taking flight from the flower. Just like that. We could probably do a bigger one there, but I think that would be almost an overkill, so I'm not going to do that. I am going to grab a couple more dimensionals to go on this one. And I noticed a couple of little places that's not completely popped out, so I took care of that. And I put one right there in the center. And I think that's the only one I'm going to do on this one. I want to bend his wings up a little bit. And I'm going to put him right here. I'm leaving the place right here for a sentiment. And I'm going to stick him down just right there. Now again, this is taking a different, a whole different direction than what I had originally thought, but I do love the direction that it's taken. Toby. He's such a little mess. He is just absolutely a little mess. He's my little boy, and you know, mamas have a special place in their heart for their little boys, so he is like my little heartstrings. I have some upcoming news that I will be announcing next week, and this is something personal about myself. So just stay tuned for that announcement. I'm hoping that I'll get the answer that I need coming hopefully next week. So I didn't want to make any sort of announcement until I get my final word. So I know I've whet your appetite, and I'm sorry. But hopefully some very exciting news, and we will definitely be announcing that very soon. Okay, for the inside of my card, I'm going to mat it in this pretty seaside blue because I love carrying over my colors. So let me grab my trimmer. And again, we know we're going to need this to be 4. Let's see, let's do 4 this way. Can we get 5 1/4 this way? Yeah. Okay, let's do 4. And 5 1/4. Look at that. That was close, wasn't it? That was almost too close for comfort. That's okay. Alrighty, let's see if we can get this piece inside. And I think what I'm going to do is I want to stamp this little flower, I think here and maybe here. So I'm just going to do this in a Momento. Or better yet, I'm going to use the Seaside Spray. The tone on tone is always so lovely. So I think that'll be really pretty to do the tone on tone. So let's ink that up. I'm going to bring this piece over and just stamp it. Let's try that one more time. Very pretty. Yes. So let's ink it up, and I'm going to do a little on and off, maybe like that. Very pretty. And maybe another one right about here. Oh, I love that. very subtle but gorgeous. And let's do one right here. And maybe one right there. Oh yeah. I think that just brings so much to a card when you take the time to do a little stamping on the inside, and it just carries through the beauty of what you had going on the outside. So I love that. I think it turned out gorgeous. All right. So now we need to do a sentiment on the inside. I'm gonna follow through with and I think I'm going to put "You Mean So Much to Me." I think that little sentiment could go for any type of card that you wanted to put it on. And then again, maybe we'll leave the inside. Let's see how this would work right here. You mean so much to me. Or you could do it this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp this on here, and then we're just going to trim it out. I think that will work, and it will be beautiful. And by doing it that way, you know what else you can do? You can actually mat it with white behind it, which I think will be gorgeous. Just like that. So, I think I got it like I want it. And if you wanted to use a piece behind it, you could very easily cut a piece of white. I got a piece of white right here. And this looks like it's probably 1/4 of an inch. A little bit over 1/4. So I'm going to do this at almost 1/2. And then you can frame this on here, just like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some regular glue, and I am going to run a bead of glue right here. And then I'm going to glue it to this piece. And all you want to do is just get it centered. Just like so. Move it around till you get it just like you want it, and then press it down. Toby is just really showing himself this evening. Toby, stop. And then we're going to pop that up. Yeah, if y'all could see the mess that I've got in here in my craft table, you would die laughing because it is a mess. It's a good thing that you're only seeing right here because it's a total disaster. Alright, I'm going to turn that over, and I am going to put some dimensionals. I'm going to use my minis because I think the big ones would be a little cumbersome on here. So I'm going to put probably 4 because I want to kind of evenly distribute this. And now let's turn this over, and I am going to run this across just like that. Isn't that pretty? Now all we have to do is put our little blue piece on the inside, and I'm going to just run some snail. Just like that. And then we are going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in. Do y'all hear Toby over there fussing? He is rubbing his head upside down and everything, trying to get my attention. I think I need to go give my dog some love. Poor baby. Anybody knows me knows that I just never ever love on him. Okay, that card is done. Now this card ended up being much different than what I imagined, but I absolutely love the way it turned out. I love that background stamp. Again, like I said, all of the products will be listed in the video below. You do not have to look them up anymore by number, so I will not be listing the number. I will use Forever Blossom stamp set. I will use the die set, which was the butterflies, because we did cut these off of that die. I will list everything, even to the Stampin' Mist cleaner that I used. Everything will be listed by name. So if you are interested, except this is no longer available, but the Stampin' Seal is, and it looks like this, which is a much bigger thing. It's easier to maneuver in your hand. I do love this. But it is a learning curve, as so many demonstrators have said. This was just so easy because it was pop in, pop out, and it always just flowed really well. So I do miss that. Maybe they'll bring it back. But I love this too. And this you can buy in the Stampin' Seal and also the Stampin' Seal Plus. So the Stampin' Seal Plus is in a dark blue container. It looks like this. It is much stronger than this one. Both of them work beautifully. So if you just wanted something that works extra heavy duty, just get the Stampin' Seal Plus. But both of them are available. I'll list all the inks that I used and all the tools that I used. So go over and visit, and like I said, do not forget to use the host code for September. Very important. Plug that in when you place your order. And I want to thank you so much for tuning in, for watching me create this card. I think it came together beautifully. I've got a lot of die cuts and pieces that I can use on other cards, so maybe next time when we come together, I will use all of those pieces and we will do maybe like a scrap card and see what we can come up with. That's always fun. So thanks so much for tuning in, and until we craft again, may God bless you and keep you. Remember to be kind to someone. Tell someone today that you love them, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.